The first time you open your eyes, your mother is in her natural state, yet she is smiling warmly at you. You turn to look the other side, and there is your sister, bare-chested as is the custom. So is everyone present to welcome you, including your father. Welcome to the ancient Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert. You were born in the deepest part of the desert into a family of infinity. Yes, infinity. In your tribe, there are no numbers or counts beyond 20. So, how do you explain that you are the 29th child out of 37? Well, finding out your birthday is easy, as long as your mother explains it to you before you have seen 20 winters. You might learn that you were born 7 rainy seasons ago, right when the frogs started their song, or when the buffalo were returning to the forest. Plus, everyone knows if they are older or younger than you because they remember who was born just before or just after you. That is how your people keep track of time. For breakfast, the only time you probably ever had a morning meal was when you were a baby. Back then, you lived on breast milk, but that only lasted until you were a few days past infinity. Now, you only eat when there is a fresh catch or a big family feast. By the time you are 5 years old, you and your squad are already pro rat hunters. You can map out an entire tunnel of rats in your head. You know exactly where to block the holes and where to wait for them to run out for an easy catch. But you don't just hunt rats. You also know crickets like the back of your hand. You can actually sing into their holes to make them crawl out and then crawl back in again. It's like you have a special connection with the desert. By the age of 10, you have graduated from your version of nursery school. Now, you are an expert tracker. You can tell if a snake is pregnant just by looking at the trail it leaves behind. You can even tell when a hyena has found a new girlfriend, or if they are expecting a baby soon, all by reading their tracks in the morning sand. Now you are 20, you are the king of the jungle. You can look at a footprint and know if it belongs to your father or your uncle. You can see exactly where they went and even who they met along the way. You also understand the sky. You know which moody clouds will actually bring rain and which ones will only bring a dusty wind and pass by without dropping a single search drop. You have learned to read the desert like a book. You have probably never been sick a day in your life. Or maybe you just don't know that you and everyone else in your community are as healthy or as sick as each other. You have also never owned a single thing. In your tribe, there is no such thing as private property. When you bring home a catch from a hunt, everyone gets an equal share. You never feel cheated because, for your whole life, you have always received an equal part of everything without having to prove yourself. In your world, everything belongs to everyone. On one very sunny morning, you set out for your normal routine. The forest has become a part of you. About 13 miles from your home, you find 2 sets of strange tracks. You have never seen anything like these before. Of course, you know nearly all the animals in your part of the forest. When even one animal is missing, you and your tribe talk about it. But you are sure these tracks are not from here. Maybe they came from another forest, but they are definitely snakes. 2 giant pythons with very rough skin, and they look overweight. From the tracks, you can tell one is a male and the other is a female. The male is flirting with the female, but he must be a very proud fellow. He keeps his distance and won't touch her, but he follows every single turn she makes. Their story is so interesting that you decide to see how it ends. You wonder if she will finally give in or if the male will finally get his chance. But strangely, their trail goes on and on. After 4 days of following them, they still haven't mated. The female must be very stubborn. Then you notice something scary. The trail is now heading straight toward your family's home, but through a path that no one ever uses. You start to imagine what 2 giant pythons could do to your family. This isn't a love story anymore. It's a hunter's story. It makes sense now. The snakes used this secret route because they didn't want to be seen. You begin to run. The faster you go, the more you hope the tracks will turn away, but they never do. They keep heading right for your house. Finally, you see your family from a distance. Everyone is sitting on the ground. You sprint until you reach them, only for everyone to burst out laughing at you. You are breathing hard, looking at them in confusion, which only makes them laugh harder. It is clear they are having fun, and no one is in any danger, especially not from giant pythons. You soon realize those snakes weren't animals at all. They were tracks left by something your world had never seen before. They were tire tracks from a Jeep. A man named Jamie Uys had accidentally reached your world while he was filming wild animals in the desert. He first arrived 4 days ago while you were away. He came back because he was amazed. For him, it felt like time travel. He was seeing people live like early humans who had never seen metal in their lives. But he saw that your people weren't wild. You weren't aggressive. He was fascinated by the way you lived and how you shared everything. If he left his jacket on the ground, someone would just put it on. Things moved from person to person, just like food moved between families, naturally, without asking permission and without any debt. The more he visited, the more he realized your people weren't living behind civilization. You were living right beside it, yet completely untouched. You were like a living memory of how humanity used to be. Eventually, he wanted to capture that feeling, not with a documentary about animals, but with a story. That story would become the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy. It's a film about what happens when one small object enters a world that doesn't understand the idea of owning things. But to tell that story, Jamie needed someone who didn't have to pretend. He needed someone who was already living it. And that is exactly where you come in. As your family laughed, you honestly shared your story about the snakes you had been tracking for 4 days. This made them laugh even more. They pointed toward the python tracks you had followed right into camp. As you stood there in shock, inspecting the tire tracks with total wonder, Jamie knew he had found his star. He said you were the perfect person for a story that would soon become a global hit film in the 1980s. But back then, standing in the sand of the Kalahari, you didn't even understand what a film or a hit was. You were told they needed you for a job and that you would be paid, but you didn't understand what those words meant either. But when they said, okay, you know what, follow us, your curious nature couldn't resist. At first, it felt simple, just a few days away from home. A walk, a journey, nothing unusual. But in your tribe, there is a belief that if you travel for more than 20 days, you might reach the end of the earth. Your people believe that the path behind you could disappear and you might never find your way home again. No one in your tribe had ever walked for more than 20 days. No one had ever needed to. Little did you know that this journey would last much longer than 20 days. It would carry you farther than anyone in your bloodline had ever gone. You were heading towards something your people had no name for, a world of metal, bright lights, and loud noise. You were going to meet humans who no longer lived by the cycles of the sky. You were leaving one version of humanity behind to meet another.